DevilNeverCry.
What is up, everybody? It is me, DevilNeverCry, and today we'll be reviewing Forspoken. Thank you so much to Square Enix for providing me with a review copy of this game, and with that said, let's get straight to it. Forspoken is an action RPG that puts you in the shoes of New York resident Frey Holland. Downtrodden and going through some difficult circumstances, they find themselves whisked away to the magical world of Athia, though all is not what it seems. Frey quickly finds out that Athia is a dying and broken world, slowly succumbing to a form of magical corruption, and if she is to return home to her loving cat Homer, she'll have to find a way to reluctantly save this world, as it is her best chance of making it back home. And without wanting to spoil anything, that essentially serves as the backdrop for Forspoken and the main driving force behind Frey's actions. The game's story is split across 13 or so chapters, and in typical JRPG fashion, starts off small with a personal focus, and by the end of it is incredibly grandiose in scale. With the narrative out of the way, let's move on to where this game truly shines, and that is the gameplay. Before we go any further, I ask that you like this video and consider subscribing. Not only does it help the channel out a ton with the algorithm, but it means you won't miss out on future Forspoken content. For reference sake, I played this game on performance mode on a PS5 with the 120Hz option enabled, and for the most part, the game was fairly smooth. There were only a few frame rate dips here and there when there was a substantial amount of enemies and particle effects going on all at once, but those moments were few and far between. The caveat or the trade-off for the fantastic performance is that during some cutscenes or some up-close shots, the character models can look slightly rough, but in all honesty, it is a trade-off I am more than willing to make. As mentioned, the world of Athia is fairly expansive, with one main hub town known as Cipoll. Typically, you'll often start and end chapters at Cipoll, with your main objective often being placed 2 kilometers away on some corner of the map. It's up to you how you get to this specific location and what it is that you tackle along the way, but the game certainly does incentivize exploration, especially with its fantastic parkour and traversal system. With a simple press of a button, you're able to use Frey's flow ability, which allows you to deftly and swiftly flip your way across the landscape of Athia. Getting deeper into the game, you'll start unlocking more and more traversal abilities, which will allow you to circumnavigate the world of Athia in style. I think why the traversal system here works so well is because it simply isn't brain dead. A lot of the later abilities you gain access to will require precise player input to pull off deftly and effectively, which is why it feels so cathartic to simply just traverse the world. Though the game does have an immaculate fast travel system, allowing you to traverse from one corner of the map all the way to the other in mere seconds, the game does incentivize that you traverse the world via parkour by hiding mana points scattered throughout the land. Mana points are what you use to unlock Frey's abilities, and the only other way to gain them is to level up, so the game does incentivize you quite heavily to traverse the land and find these mana points, which only adds to the rewarding feel of traversing the world. Traversal, of course, isn't the only thing that you can do in Forspoken. Another large part of the gameplay loop is combat. Frey has access to a magical talking vambrace which allows her to wield different kinds of magic. And conveniently enough, there are a multitude of different types of monsters and enemies strewn throughout the land of Athia that Frey can use this magic on. Entering combat turns the game into a fast and frenetic third-person shooter. Frey can use parkour in combat to evade attacks and gain an advantageous position, and she can swap between a multitude of different types of magic in real time, allowing for an incredibly rewarding and cathartic feeling combat system that allows you to exploit enemy weaknesses and absolutely obliterate them. As mentioned, the game does feature an enemy weakness system, forcing you to think about what types of magic you're using. You're also ranked in every single combat encounter, which incentivizes you to not just spam the same type of magic, again forcing you to mix things up and really think about what kind of magic you're throwing out there. Enemies can be found roaming the wilds of Athia, or they can be found in one of the many side objectives that you can simply stumble into. Whether it's the ruins of a forgotten fortress or the remains of a broken town, Frey can often find herself stumbling into a combat encounter, which completed, will reward her with either things like archives and lore, further providing context to the world of Athia and building up its world, or more tangible results like stat increases or equipment that you can use. There's plenty of things that lie off the beaten path that the player can get stuck into, and completing these side objectives often reward you with something that make you feel as though you weren't simply just wasting your time, or that the game is just padding itself out. And as is the beauty with most open world games, you can set your own pace. If you'd like to slow things down, instead of going off to do the main objective, you can simply wander around and find something else to do. Or, if you want to speed things up, and you want to see what comes next in the story, you can just make a beeline straight to the main objective. Another facet of Forspoken that's worth talking about is the crafting system. This is an RPG after all, which means that Frey herself has a base level of statistics: health, defense, and damage. These can be augmented depending on what equipment that Frey is wearing, and in turn the equipment can then be upgraded via a crafting table by using materials either found throughout Athia, in treasure chests, or materials found when defeating enemies. The crafting system itself is quite straightforward, but it adds another layer to the gameplay and gives you another reason to go out and explore. The last piece of the puzzle when it comes to Forspoken's gameplay is the leveling system. Like any other ARPG, JRPG or RPG out there, whenever you defeat an enemy, you will gain XP. Gain enough XP and you'll level up, and when you level up, you'll gain mana points. These points in turn can then be used to purchase and unlock abilities for Frey to use not only in combat, but also in Traversal. Conveniently enough, you'll find this mana also strewn throughout the entirety of Athia, allowing you to strengthen Frey and gain new abilities by simply exploring the world. This in turn serves the game quite well, as it allows for a sense of progression by simply traversing from point A to point B, and alleviates you having to grind out fights to simply get stronger. For the daring player, unwavering in the face of challenge, the abilities themselves can be further augmented via the use of spellcrafting that allows you to take on specific challenges that force you to use that ability in a creative way that, when completed, will permanently augment and improve that ability. So all in all, there's plenty to sink your teeth into when it comes to Forspoken's gameplay. I put 30 hours into Forspoken before I finally saw the end credits, and that was without having completed everything there was to do on the map. And overall, it was the gameplay that won me over and kept me engaged for those 30 hours. Sure, not everybody may be a fan of the peculiar and somewhat questionable narrative choices they made with this game, or the banter between Frey and Cuff, her magical talking vambrace, but if you're here for gameplay that will reward you for engaging with it, then I definitely recommend Forspoken. With all that said and done though, let me know your thoughts on Forspoken down in the comments below, and whether or not it's a game you'll be picking up. With all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.